What's going on, y'all? So, some of you have wanted me to compare the Empirical Labs Mic E to the Empirical Labs Arouser, and that's what we're going to do in this video. So, let's check out this on some vocals and some drums. I've got the same rap vocal that I used from the Empirical Labs video, and let's see how they compare. So, we'll start by just looking at some of the obvious differences between these two compressors from the mind of Dave Durr. So the Empirical Labs Mic E, the more you drive this knob, the comp sat knob, the more saturation you're going to get. So the more compression you get, the more saturation you're going to get. On the arouser, you have a knob that's going to let you decide how much saturation you want from less to more. Right now I've got it at 5, which is right in the middle, which is just going to flicker this warm light a little, just the same way we're getting a little bit of warm light on the Mic E for the example. I'm going to, just by looking at these two, I'm going to say that the Arouser is more versatile because it has almost twice the amount of ratios, and it also has a wider range of attack and release times. Looking at this here for the first time, so the Arouser goes down to 30 dB of gain reduction, Mic E goes down to 26. One of the most unique things about the Arouser that I've not seen on any other compressor is this attack modification. This is really special because what this does is it lengthens the attack of the transient, which is really good on drums. It's almost like a transient designer. So you can think of this as doing heavy compression and really squashing something, but then you can use this knob to open the attack back up from something that you're compressing heavily, which again, I would say is really suited towards drums, and which is one of the reasons I really like the Arouser on drums. As far as a high pass filter, the Mic E has a high pass filter that does a high pass filter at 80 hertz. Now, I believe this is high passing the signal and not the a detection circuit, if I'm not mistaken, and that's because I own the hardware of the Mic E, and I know that's how the high pass works on there. Because it's a channel strip in Mic Pre, it's doing a high pass on the signal. Now on the Arouser, you have a much your high pass here goes up to, is that 540 hertz? So no, that's 640 hertz. You have a wider range in the detection and the high pass filter for the detection circuit on the Arouser, as well as a parametric EQ section here that you can really shape what the detector circuit sees in the compressor, which is another thing that's really unique. I mean, normally you get a high pass filter on a compressor for the side chain, but not a parametric EQ like this. Both have wet and dry, which is pretty standard for compressors. You have the nuke on the Mic E and you have the rivet on the Arouser. Not sure just how different that is. We'll check that out when we get to drums, but they're both a very steep ratio. But let's get into the example. So I've got these set, as close as I can really get them together. We're doing 8 millisecond attack, 4-to-1 ratio, 100 millisecond release, and I'm going to play this. Let's see. Let's play it first bypassed, and then as it loops, I'm going to bring in the Mic E, and then as it loops again, I'll bring in the Arouser, and then we'll talk about the differences.
We need a box with the sparklers, what a models. You see we over here thugging. What's the problem? Ain't been too many things that's going on, except a cup full of this here Patron that's going on. Hey, I just. We need the bottles with the sparklers, what the models. You see we over here thugging. What's the problem? Ain't been too many things that's going on, except a cup full of this here Patron that's going on. Hey, I just. We need the bottles with the sparklers, what the models. You see we over here thugging. What's the problem? Ain't been too many things that's going on, except a cup full of this here Patron that's going on. Hey, I just.
Okay, let's step things up to a 12 millisecond attack. And we'll keep the 100 millisecond release, and let's go up to an 8-to-1 ratio. And let's take a listen to that, starting back with the Mic E.
We need the bottles with the sparklers, what the models. You see we over here thugging. What's the problem? Ain't been too many things that's going on. Except a cup full of this here Patron that's going on. Hey, I just. We need the bottles with the sparklers, what the models. You see we over here thugging. What's the problem? Ain't been too many things that's going on. Except a cup full of this here Patron that's going on. Hey, I.
Okay, so we kind of hear squeezing it a little more with that high ratio. I do notice on the arouser we're starting to flicker that bad light where I don't believe we are on the mic E. Just something to notice. But so my thoughts between these two here on the vocals, I feel like I'm a little biased towards the mic E because I've been using the mic E on vocals for years. But I do feel like they sound similar to me, but I don't know, something is just, and I could just be biased, but something is making me lean a little more towards the mic E than the arouser on this vocal. But the weird thing, even though I say that, I can't really put my finger on why because they do sound similar to me. So I can't even say why I'm choosing the mic E here, but yeah, I am. Let's take a listen to some drums now. So before we get into examples on the drums, I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about a few more differences between these two. So I said that the arouser has a wider attack and release range than the mic E, and I just want to point out exactly what that is. So the attack time on the mic E goes up to 100 milliseconds. Now you have, was this 5 options, fixed options. The arouser is variable, but it goes up to 40 milliseconds is the highest on the attack that you can go. So a much longer attack time that you can do on the mic E. And as far as release goes on the mic E, you've got up to 500 milliseconds, whereas the arouser can go all the way to 3000 milliseconds, which is 3 seconds. So very long release time on the arouser. So the arouser has the longer release and the mic E has the longer attack. And on the wet dry, this is one of the newer features that's been added to the arouser, but if you click this E here, you have an option to adjust the dry trim level, which you cannot do on the mic E. Okay, so back to the differences here. So we're going to go over Nuke and Rivet as well, but they do sound different, so I don't want to compare them directly, but I will play them so you can hear them. But starting off, what I have here is the mic E and the arouser on this drum bus, and we're doing 8-to-1 ratio, 8 millisecond attack. Just make sure the attacks match up. 8 millisecond attack and 100 millisecond release. And we're going to start with the mic E, and then I'll play the arouser. And the arouser. Okay, so definitely with the arouser, I'm hearing more room tone in the compression, and that's more used to what I'm hearing when I'm smashing some drums here. I want to point out some of the unique features here between these two. On the mic E, let's go through these high emphasis circuits, which affect how the high frequencies are compressed. And we'll start with high frequency emphasis 1, and then we'll do 2. We'll do it this way. We'll do 1, off, 2, and then low frequency emphasis. Okay, and on the arouser side, let's mess with this attack modification. So obviously we're doing a lot of compression here, but watch how I can open the attack up with this attack modification knob. Just listen to how the kick drum is going to get more pronounced and fuller here because we're bringing the attack back of it. Really special feature on this compressor. Lastly, let's look at the saturation. So right now it's at 5. I'm just going to bring it all the way down, and we'll just slowly go clockwise and add more saturation to this. We'll say with the arouser, you can go too far. Like, let me see, I had it at 5, probably 7. We're going to 7, 8, really going to start to get some crunchy distortion here. So not something that I use all the way up at the top because it can get pretty nasty. But let's take a listen. So definitely as you get up there to 10, like I said, you get some pretty nasty distortion and clipping there. I want to point out another difference that I heard just between these two when we just did just a straight comparison is that the arouser did sound warmer to me as well. But again, you can really add more or less saturation with this knob here, which is something that you can't do with the Mic E. Let's take a listen to Nuke and Rivet. So starting back with the Mic E, same thing, but with the Nuke ratio now. And on the arouser, the Rivet. Okay, so like I said, those do sound different, so I didn't want to compare them directly. But my final thoughts here on drums. I think I would lean more towards the arouser, really because of that the attack modification, and I like the fact of being able to shape how much saturation I want, and also the detection, the high pass filter. I can roll off as much lows, really all the way up to the mid range, that I can roll out of the compression detector circuit. Actually, let's take a listen to that real quick. Let's go back down to like an 8-to-1 ratio, and I'm just going to roll up this high pass filter. So it's what you would normally do to get your kick drum to come back through if you're compressing heavy, is take out the low end that the compressor sees. Let's take a listen to that. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd prefer using the attack modification there. I got a bigger kick drum out of using that. So I would say I would prefer the Mic E on vocals, and the arouser I would prefer on drums, would kind of be my final take here. But let me know Your thoughts, how you think that these two compare? Which one did you like better? Which one do you prefer? Let me know. Any questions, comments? Let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. I want to invite you to check out my podcast, the Faders Up Podcast, where we discuss pro audio and beyond. We discuss everything from recording to gear to the music business. So if you're an audio engineer, songwriter, recording artist, music producer, this podcast is for you. We recently started season 2, and we're going to have a lot of listener questions on this season, as well as some really cool guests that's lined up and giveaways as well. So if you've already subscribed and followed the podcast, thank you. If you haven't, it's available on all platforms, and I encourage you to check it out. Also, rate it and review it and let us know what you think.